Church. Today we have the lovely one and only Karma Ferry with us, and we're going to be doing some mindful movement, and then we will move into interview with Karma, talking about the wonderful work she does supporting people with microdosing and the program that we worked on together that she offers called Rooted. And then we will end our session with Q&A. So if at any point today you have questions either on the Zoom or on the Instagram Live, feel free to drop those in the chat and we'll make sure we get to them at the end. But before we start, since I have you on now, Karma, do you want to just take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Ciara. It's so good to be here. I love all the work you do. Thank you for the work you do. I'm Karma, and I am a somatic-based coach, and I weave in psychedelics into my work. So I use breath, sound, movement, touch, and psychedelics to help people reconnect with their bodies, with remembering who they are, with deconditioning and learning their belief systems, and how can we become more aware of our conditioning and what we can do by using somatic work to change our old beliefs and move into new ways of being.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you. We're going to get all into the good stuff in a little bit. But let's go ahead and start with some breath and movement just to ground here. So, everybody on the call, if you could just, I usually like to come to the edge of my seat so that I'm sitting tall on my sit bones and then roll my shoulders back so I can feel my shoulders on top of my hips, knees in line with the hips, feet flat on the floor, palms facing down on the thighs. And then close the eyes or have a soft, gentle gaze. And make sure your head is sitting right in line with your spine. So imagine your spine having one vertebra stacked on top of the other, like building blocks. And at the very top sits your head with almost no effort, feeling your body in space. Inhale and lift the shoulders up to the ears. And exhale, slide the shoulder blades down the back. 2 more times, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. One more deep breath in. Breathe out through the mouth. Just letting the shoulders relax away from the ears. Go ahead and take some kind of intuitive movement here. So we're going to start with the neck. So just go ahead and take some neck circles. Whatever feels good, just moving the neck. If you find a spot that feels stiff or crunchy or needs extra attention, feel free to hang out there for a bit. You can push the shoulders down while you do this if you want more of a stretch in the scalenes or those muscles on the side of the neck. Maybe even play around with moving the neck in tune with your breath. Inhaling for one direction, exhaling for another direction or movement. Even yourself out. Take any last movements you need. Come to center when you're ready, and we'll move to our shoulders. So just begin to move the shoulders in space. There's no right or wrong way to do this, so maybe take some shoulder rolls one way, and the other. Maybe lift one shoulder to one ear, then the other. Just really listen to your body here. There's not a right or a wrong way to move. We're just getting in touch with our body, what it may need. Noticing if one side feels different from the other. Hmm. Let's start to get into the rib cage. So maybe moving forward and back like a seated cat-cow, or side to side, seeing if you can isolate the ribs from the rest of the body. Maybe just finding stillness, feeling your breath move the ribs. Bringing our attention down to the lower torso and the hips. So just inviting some movement, maybe tilting the pelvis one direction and then the other. Imagining it's a bowl full of water. Dump the water out the front and then the back. Maybe full 360. And then moving to the ankles and the legs. Making any movement there that feels good. I'm straightening out mine. Tapping my toes both directions. And go ahead and just move your anywhere that feels like it needs attention. So you don't need to even out the sides. You don't need to worry about how you look or how anyone else looks. Just closing the eyes and listening to what the body has to say. What it's craving. Moving with the breath. Wrapping up any movement, coming back to center and to stillness. Just take a deep breath in and out. And a moment to acknowledge anything that has shifted for you from when you first arrived. So maybe that's your physical body, if anything shifted, maybe your mood or your thoughts. Have they slowed down or changed course? Acknowledging any shifts, having gratitude for taking the time out of your day to care for your body and to learn here. We'll begin to bat the eyes open, wiggle the fingers and toes, take in the colors and shapes of the room. Coming back to the room, we're going to transition into the interview that Karma and I did. So give me a moment to share my screen. All right, here we go. Today I have the lovely. Did that look good, Karma? Were you able to hear it and see it? Okay. Wonderful.
Karma with me
How
from the
happy we are to
Soulful
be
Medicine
together.
Woman. And I am a former client of hers, now become friend, dare I say. And I'm so excited to have you here today and talk about what you do and how it can help, those working mamas, working women who maybe are overwhelmed or stressed or, dealing with a variety of emotions that they're not sure how to process, or maybe they're just stagnant and know that they want more, right? And so, do you want to start maybe by talking a little bit about your business and what you offer, and then we can take it from there?
Yeah, when I hear you say overwhelmed moms and overwhelmed working women, um, the first thing that comes to mind that I work on is nervous system regulation, which we did a lot of, as you know,
Yes.
and Rooted. So I think the most important thing right now for any working mom is to really work on being resourced in the nervous system. So what does that look like? It looks like using somatic practices like breath, sound, movement, touch, and then, as you know, I work with psychedelics.
Oh, wait, pause.
Okay.
Can you explain what somatic is in case?
Somatics means of the body. So we
Okay.
want what we're learning and what the research is showing is that the body really score. We hold every experience, imprint, thought, trauma in the imprint of the body. And so it's our living library. And so we hold good things, but we also hold bad things,
Right.
hard things that are unprocessed. So when it comes to emotions,
Right.
we don't have the skill to actually process the emotion, to complete it, to feel it, to move it through the body. If we don't do that, we end up recycling. And that causes the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm. So I work around somatic practices. So I use breath work, I use nonlinear movement, using toning, chanting, moving, anything that gets the body moving. So we can start to break up the density of these old patterns, old experiences, old behaviors.
So maybe like a really relatable example, because I remember when I first heard about this idea that like the body keeps the score, which is a great book. And if you haven't read it, it's dense, it's hard, it's heavy, but it's beautiful. And there's a lot of like truth. And like you said, the science is really like substantiating a lot of what is there. But like an example, I think that this example is from The Untethered Soul, which is a must read also. But he had this example of like if your ex-boyfriend's car drives by on the freeway and then all of a sudden it triggers these emotional patterns for you because you haven't like processed that, and then that affects the rest of your day. And so it's like you will feel, I mean, sometimes you don't even have to be like consciously aware of it, but then all of a sudden it affects everything. And everybody can relate to an experience like that. Like somebody reminds you of someone you don't like, or like reminds you of a really traumatic situation, and then all of a sudden you're like in it again.
Anything, a smell, scent, sound, energy, like anything can really trigger. So that car, really that ex-boyfriend's car, that may not even be the ex-boyfriend.
It doesn't matter.
Again, keeps the score and remembers that and doesn't know the difference between that's just somebody else's car that looks like my boyfriend's car, right? So we can't think our way out of trauma.
I know, and I've always tried to think my way out of.
Well, because you're such a brain cat.
I'm always living up here.
I know,
and
you're my favorite kind of client,
my greatest ally, and it's been like to my detriment because like it's perpetuate. I've had bouts of anxiety and depression, and like up here just keeps you in the anxiety and depression because you're trying to think, why am I anxious? Like I gotta get, and you're trying to like understand why and rationalize your way out of it, but like that just digs the hole deeper.
You can't. You really need to pull it down into the body. And it just takes practices and awareness around, okay, first the awareness I'm going into a trigger or I can feel the anxiety coming on. How can I use some breath? Maybe I need to get up and move and shake. What can I pull into my own resources? Maybe I have my favorite essential oil. I can take 10 deep breaths with that and just put my hand on my belly and my hand on my heart. like just having some simple resources available that work for you. Everybody has a different nervous system, right? We all respond differently. So every body is different. And so it's the same thing with nervous system resources. One thing can work great for you and make you feel like really zen. And for me, it's like, it throws me into a frazzle.
Yeah, like some people love white noise. I hate white noise.
Yeah. I like the sound of rain, but white noise?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my first, my first area of work is really in my coaching practice. It's somatic based. So it's not like traditional talk therapy where you talk about what's going on. I think that's really useful. But eventually you get to the point where I've talked it and I've talked it.
Yeah, it kind of only gets you so, like, I feel like for me, it was like an essential foundation and is very important, but it can only get you so far.
I feel like our nervous systems kind of know what we need and we can gravitate to it. But when we could dive a little deeper, like the simplest practice of, for example, horsey lifts, my favorite.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, it's like there are many times I do that throughout the day, or I get up to move my body and shake it out to kind of clear my channels so that I can kind of get back into my center. Because I want to get back here, not here. When I'm really here and I'm in the computer, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I need to remember to get up and move and get back here. When you look at someone who came from a family that was chaotic and very traumatic and dysfunctional, you probably are already not in your body. And for myself, from my upbringing, it was easier for me to check out of my body. And as I learned, somatics has really been the game changer. I mean, psychedelics, working with psilocybin and psychedelics has been life-changing. And weaving the somatics, it's the missing piece for so many. Yeah. And it can be a little uncomfortable. Like when I'm in a session, I'll say, okay, we spend 45 minutes in the body, not in here. And when they can learn to kind of trust it and start to feel safe with this practice, boy, it can be so beneficial. It's like leaving loads of just unprocessed crap. Yeah. And it really opens up an avenue of just a new way of trying things.
It really does. Yeah. Yeah. That's been my experience as well. And I think like for a lot of us who maybe are like, who've been part of more like mainstream culture, working in corporate world, and the somatic practices are perhaps more accessible. Some of them are a little more esoteric than others, but psychedelics, everybody's kind of starting to talk about, and it's like, I still feel like it's on the fringe, but it's starting to get tremendous momentum into becoming mainstream. So I'd love to deep dive into that part of your work. Like, how did you, I guess we could start with like, what has your personal experience been, if you don't mind sharing?
No, not at all. So I was in Sedona in 2017 with a dear friend at her retreat center, and I was really going through a hard time. And she said, would you like to do a heart opening ceremony? And I said, yeah, I would. And so we worked with MDMA, which is an illegal drug, but it was life-changing. I didn't realize that I had complex PTSD that I've been carrying. I think
from your childhood?
Definitely from childhood, unprocessed, living in that fight and flight constantly, and to the point where you're exhausted. I mean, realizing that it's so unconscious that I literally ran my life from either a freeze or a fight and flight. Rarely was I down, like fawning and really freezing in the dumps. I was always kind of up and hyper vigilant, and it was really exhausting. But the medicine really helped open my heart. And when you're working with that kind of medicine, your heart is very open and your ego is very quiet. So you really are filled with much more compassion and grace. So no matter what came up in my journey, I was really able to sit there with deep forgiveness. And a lot of the forgiveness was really around myself. Because I feel like that's one of the biggest things that women struggle with is the self-forgiveness. We're not doing it good enough. Not a good mom. I can't climb the ladder. All of it. And
the expectations are high.
Yeah.
And the expectations of society we internalize and then hold for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting.
Well, I'm going to finish this because
tell me.
I didn't finish that was only the first part of the journey.
Okay.
So then I went into a psilocybin journey as I came out of the MDMA portion of it. And I was on this beautiful piece of land right outside of Sedona. It was gorgeous. And it was really a turning point for me. Now, I had done mushrooms recreationally as a younger person, but it didn't quite have the impact that this day did. I had moments of just such clarity that I wasn't really alone. And I think as a child of coming from my family where I was neglected, nobody was seen, nobody was witnessed. I really could actually experience that I was part of everything, that I actually wasn't alone. And that was so healing for me to experience that connectivity. And it really helped me reconnect with the spiritual aspect of myself, being raised in a very Catholic, traditional Catholic family. Recovering Catholic. It was really eye-opening. And so I started to work with the medicine on my own, in my own healing journey. And I lived on Maui for 23 years, as you know. And I started to just support my friends. And I was always kind of the coach. And I studied trauma. I studied somatics, nervous system stuff. And I left Maui 2 years ago and just left my entire real estate career, sold everything, moved to Colorado, did some deep diving into psychedelic guiding, integration, plant medicine, mystery schools, somatics, nervous system, all of it. And I just I took a year off and did a deep dive.
Kind of severed the cord and jumped into the deep end and said, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. I went to the edge. And I think that's the thing, Ciara, is the way we're going to grow is to the edge.
Interesting.
We got to go to the edge. And because we are very,
I'm like, that sounds uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable. That's where we grow. That's where we grow. That's where we grow. And so I really started to support friends here. And I ended up meeting up with a very amazing regenerative medicine doctor in Boulder and told him what I do. And he started referring clients to me. It's just been it's been nonstop. So I work with clients one-on-one with larger journeys. And, but I kept getting a lot of clients who were like, God, I really want to, but I'm nervous and I kind of want to experience it, but I'm not really sure. And so I said, well, I'm going to write a microdosing course. I had been microdosing for years. And I thought, I'm going to just create something so people can come in and experience and work with the medicine. And that's how Rooted came about. I'm a mom. I have a career, am I going to be able to do my work and plug into daily life, or are the walls going to breathe? And that's not anything like that. And once they can kind of overcome, that's why we start out really low and slow. I started you guys out with 50 milligrams and yet 100s to work with. And it really is an opportunity. The main point of Rooted was not necessarily the microdosing. It was actually to get you in the body. Because when you are working to find what is called your sweet spot, what feels good for you, because your nervous system and my nervous system are very different.
Right.
Some people, as you know, one of the gals was at 200 milligrams by the end, and many of them were still at 50, and that's okay. Right. We're all different. But I encouraged you to keep the daily journal so that you were actually taking the time to listen to the inner wisdom of the body. How am I feeling on a scale of 1 to 5 in anxiety? How is my sleep? Am I feeling depressed? Am I outgoing and anxious? Am I creative? Is my focus there? Is my flow there? I gave you all these different areas of your life to rate. And it really gives you a really nice snapshot. For me, psychedelics helps me to remember the radiant light that I was from the minute I took my first breath when I came on this planet.
And I think that's a lot of people don't experience that till they're about to die.
And they don't quite know what to expect. Yeah. And it can kind of give them a frame of like, there's something so much bigger.
Right.
And that is able to give them more peace of mind.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. So I think it's really cool that you experienced that and it parallels what they're finding now in cancer patients and I'm sure, in other studies.
Yeah, well, John Hopkins is showing that people are rating it as one of the top 5 experiences of their life.
Yeah, so, I saw that.
It can be life-changing. Right. And again, like you were saying, it was really, you were a little anxious about Rooted.
Even microdosing.
Microdosing, right?
I haven't done the bigger journeys because I'm still kind of like having that feeling. Yeah. But the microdosing it felt, it was still approachable, right? And I did see a lot of benefit with allowing, like that practice of allowing we worked on, like allowing myself to explore what this new identity might look like, and to have a lot of creativity around my yoga business and like the ideas for that. So it really like kick-started a lot of stuff there. So that was really
How's
fun.
it for the anxiety? Does it tend to calm it down or quiet it a little bit?
I think it it allows me to be more in the observer. So I think it allows me to step more into the role of observer. So I wouldn't say that it like quiets the anxious thoughts or, makes them go away. But what happens is when you step back and you like watch the anxious thoughts, you can watch them rise and fall. And you're not like, I use the analogy of like a kitten batting at a little yarn ball. Like it's like that's what you're like when you're playing with your anxious thoughts, and it just like kind of you can't get out of it. Instead, you can just kind of let it roll on by. And so I think it helps me remember that I can do that. Yeah.
And that you aren't anxiety. It's
Yes,
just part
exactly.
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd love to talk about is you called it a heart opening ceremony, and you also mentioned that you've done it recreationally, and you're talking about these experiences now as journeys. So I'd like to talk about how you differentiate them and how the experience is different.
You mean the different psychedelics that are available?
Well, like you're using different vocabulary to describe a macro dose.
Well,
like what is it because you yes,
okay.
so a journey versus like tripping when you're a teenager. Like you used it when you were young.
Yeah.
And how do you think that's different?
Well, I use it in a therapeutic sense with my clients. And my clients come in and we set intention up. We also, integration is the most important part of any journey. Why bother doing all this work, receive all these deep wisdoms and downloads and codes, and not actually process what you received and then weave it into your daily life? Like,
and that's what integration is.
That's integration.
Like kind of talking about what happened and then coming up with a plan for like how you want it and have that inform.
Yeah. How did it impact them? What was their ahas? What were some of their biggest takeaways? What do they know that they need to actually start putting into action to make changes to move towards their desired outcome? And so we put a plan together, because after a psilocybin journey, you have a window of neuroplasticity. You have a good 5 to 10 days of an open mind where you can actually rewire and create a new neural pathway, AKA a new behavior.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
I think everybody could use some new behaviors. And they're like, because if you do keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same outcome.
Right.
And I think like you got to shift your behavior in order to get a different outcome. And a lot of us know this isn't working, but that's it. We get stuck and just like, I don't know what the next thing looks like, but I know this isn't it.
Right.
And so
we can't solve a problem with the same mindset.
Exactly. So it sounds like these journeys for you and your clients have like allowed them to, it's like that activation energy to push them up over the hump so that they can start
what it does actually is it provides a new lens. It opens up the aperture for them to be like, oh, wow. Because most of the time we're here. This is why we're stuck in the pattern, right? And this is all we see. And we move through our day and our life on these unconscious behaviors, and we just kind of play it out. And when we're on a psychedelic journey, if we're able to really surrender and receive, and that's one of the biggest parts about it, is I want to go in and receive. Because if I'm here and I'm grabbing and I'm attached to my outcome, I want to get.
I would never do that.
Exactly. Or it's not supposed to be this way.
Right.
And we miss out on all the magic and the possibilities that are really surrounding us. Yeah. And so that's why mushrooms are so amazing, because they can open up our lens and give us a new perspective. They do not heal us. They give us a new perspective and lens to work with, to make the changes. Like, I see how that's affecting my life. How can I make the change? And then using that window of neuroplasticity to work through some of those things and to start to weave it into the life. Now, the difference, like what the heart opening that you mentioned, MDMA is an illegal drug. It is a category 1, I think is what they call it, but MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, has been studying since the 70s the effects of MDMA on PTSD, specifically around veterans.
So like in academic research labs?
Yeah.
Like undergrad.
And unfortunately, recently it was not approved by the FDA. They're requiring more studies. But
so they didn't say no forever. They just said there's not enough now.
They're asking for more.
Yeah, you were saying PTSD is what they were.
Yeah, MDMA is very good for PTSD. I mean, that's typically not all of my clients really are good candidates for that. And there are programs, you can apply for programs and get in studies to work with that medicine. MDMA is what's called an empathogen. It works with the heart space. It opens the heart. Whereas mushrooms are an entheogen. So they're more of that psychedelic experience.
Interesting.
Where MDMA is very heart open. So when you're doing that hippie flip, if you think about it, you have this beautiful heart opening experience. You're able to sit in such grace and compassion, and you're able to just really find deeper forgiveness for whatever it is. And then you move into the mushrooms, and they've done studies showing that if you are on a lower dose of MDMA and move into the mushrooms, that it is a much smoother entry into it.
Yeah, because you're not like not going in like, oh no,
it's here.
What's gonna happen?
So, and then you roll into
interesting,
and they'll do that on the same day. So they're just two different types of experiences. Personally, I find MDMA much more heart opening and more. I find more love there, whereas when I go into a psychedelic journey with psilocybin, I find like it's very womb-like. I almost feel like I'm back in the womb. I'm surrounded. It's more ancestral for me.
Interesting. So. What about afterwards? Is there like a big crash because you're all out of your dopamine and serotonin?
Yeah, it's a big serotonin dump, and so there's supplement schedules that I recommend if you are feeling to help kind of rebuild up that serotonin and support the body as it comes back. And then also making sure that the medicine you are working with is clean and having it tested and making sure. Yeah. But usually it's, you may feel a little tired the next day, eating really healthy, clean foods, getting sunshine. Integration is really about the somatic body, right? When we come out of a journey like that, we're like, okay, I got this, and let me see, what does this mean? And it's like, no. Go and take Epsom salt baths. Go do some body work. Go put your feet on the ground. Get in nature. Gentle hikes. Rolling up with a cup of tea. Resting. Whatever, like just all about nurturing the body. So we want to really move things to the body. Then we can kind of start to move into some of the other work. But the first couple of days is like, I encourage, you don't want to just go splat, just full on right back into your daily life because you really are going to miss the beauty of what you did receive. And, with our type A, go energy, I've seen people do it.
Yeah. And so they don't get the full benefit.
Yeah. To just pull it down to the body and have some space. The more that we do these practices, breath work, using sound, like I use my crystal bowls and we do toning and, moving energy out of the throat. I mean, this is where a lot of women find
the thyroid. I could talk about this for another hour on like throat issues.
Yeah. And so anything that we can do to start moving some of that energy out of the body, what we actually do is create more space to actually take on a new shape of being the person that we truly desire to be. But when we're so full of everything that we've been stuffing for years and not dealing with, and that's too much, and I don't want to feel that, and it's just like, we're up to here with these layers of density, and that's why as we start to understanding that, working with psychedelics, working with somatics, this is a process. Healing is like this. Doing good. It's like, doing good, so we have to understand like it's a layer. And so when
it's really messy. It's not like linear. It's not like, okay, you do this and this and this. It's like, okay, like this feels right now, and then this feels right, and then it doesn't feel right anymore, and you kind of have to like
so I just remind my clients that you're in a portal. This is like this is just this is temporary. It's a portal. how can you move it towards what's here for me instead of like, oh God, here it is again, you know, the anxiety is here, or whatever it is. And what's here for me? Because there's usually something there for us if we're willing to take the time to be inward and really listen. You know, there's a practice I do called sitting on the couch and listening. It's like, what does it do? You sit on the couch and you listen.
That's it.
Nothing, no phones, nothing, just quiet.
Yeah.
And you actually listen. Because a lot of my clients, if I'm taking them through, say, for example, somatic meditation, I'll say, well, what does that feel like? Or what does that remind you of? And I go, just say the first thing that comes to your mind, even if it sounds crazy. And I'll tell you what, usually that gets us to one of the deepest, maybe traumas or pains or a memory of we do inner child work, or maybe they reconnect with a younger version of themselves, or maybe it leads them to the procrastinator part or the inner critic part. So it really is like, we can just trust, like, okay, well, I heard, you know, a silver spoon. Okay, well, let's go with that, right? Like, whatever it is. And if they learn to trust and be like, okay, this is really weird, but I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah.
It can really unfold into just a very big release of something. And that's the key, is we want to start to learn how to release versus recycle.
Well, the work you're doing is so important. I'm excited we were able to share it. I feel like we're kind of at a nice ending spot. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up for today?
No, just my website, check it out.
Okay.
I don't really talk a lot about my one-on-one journeys, but it is an option. And I offer a free 30-minute call, like call me, ask questions. I'm here to support people. I really want people to have the information and the safety around working with these medicines. And then my Root It program, it's one coming up in September 9th, and I'll have one in 2025 coming up. And that's that I'm loving Root It. It's really evolving into something special, and it's creating community. And when we come together in community, when we're doing things like microdosing, I think it really supports the process, and we have more success because we can listen to somebody else's story and go, oh, that's
I see that in myself.
Yeah. I thought the community was really, I mean, looking at it, I'm now you're taking guitar lessons. Like one of the other gals, and like, it just brought us together, and like Isabel from Maui. It's just like, oh, it was such a blessing. I just felt so full. My heart was so full from Rooted. So I really want to do more of that work. And of course, the nonlinear movement, the breath work, I think should be a daily I mean, we should be breathing daily, but really doing an intense breath work or nonlinear movement practice at least once a week is like,
well, thank you.
Clear the channel.
Thanks for
Thank you.
This was wonderful. So much fun. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more good stuff coming out. Hey. Oh my goodness, what was that like for you watching your
It was fun.
It was really fun to see
It was so
us a
fun.
couple months ago. It feels like a lifetime ago, but it was really like, it was a pleasure.
That was the summer or fall.
Yeah,
We did
totally.
that, so.
Much different energy than going into spring, you know. We're still in winter, but it feels like spring's around the corner with the weather. Was there anything that kind of came up for you when you were watching it that you're like, oh, I want to add to that, or we didn't talk about this?
Not really. Again, I think that microdosing is a really beautiful way to be introduced to the medicine on a smaller scale, so that you can start to create a relationship. Because when we're working with earth medicines, we're creating or co-creating with them. They are on this planet to heal us. And so we are creating a relationship and working with them, and they want to heal us. They want to support us. They want to see us thrive. And I think it's really, really important when you start to create that relationship and work with them and introduce them into your energetic field, and you start to understand how they work for you, it can really support moving into bigger journeys or not. I've just seen so much success with just just simply microdosing and a very low dose. It's such a low dose, as you know.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very, very low dose. And a lot of people think you have to take these big doses to have these big experiences, and you really don't. It can be very small and very impactful. So I always say small doses, big changes,
I
because that's
like
what
that.
microdosing does. And as you know, we had someone here earlier, I had a client, and she's she had long COVID, and
Mm.
she's had brain fog so severe it's impacted her joy and depression. And so she is on the lowest 50 milligram dose, and it's changed her life. She has her
Wow.
life back. And so,
Yay.
yeah, and I think a lot of it is just getting over the fear and working with a trusted guide so that you actually have access. Like when I'm working with somebody one-on-one on microdosing, they have access to me. So when they have something come up, they have access to me via signal where we can talk, we can process whatever's coming up right then and there. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. Okay, I had a couple questions come in. Sorry if I was distracted. I wanted to make sure I captured the questions. So, let me go to those. One person asked, and if people still have questions, they can drop them in the chat on the Zoom or the Instagram live. Can I microdose while still drinking coffee, taking antidepressants, or doing my usual wellness routine? Was the first question that came in.
Yes and no, depends. I had some clients, they'll just pop their pill in the morning, their microdose with their coffee. I don't recommend that.
Mm.
I recommend a ritual around working with the medicine. So take a moment, sit in silence. I like to hold it to my heart and ask the medicine, is
Mhm.
today, a good day for me to microdose? Is it for the highest and best? I tend to not slam it down with coffee. I will take it with some water first thing. And depending on how you digest, everybody's different. That's why it's nice to work with somebody. I take it and then I eat 30 minutes later.
Mm.
Some people have to eat first and then take it. So everybody's different.
Okay.
Um, and what was it? What was coffee? Oh, and going about
Yeah,
your daily life
yeah,
and
and antidepressant.
antidepressants. So yes, you can go about your daily life. If the walls start breathing, you've probably taken too much, and you're not going to do that on my watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really what you may find is that your mood might be a little enhanced. Maybe your cognitive, you may be like really
I
crisp.
feel like I'm more alert. Like
Yeah,
I'm more productive, especially the day after, like we've talked about before. Um, so like,
yeah,
yeah, if I know I need to really like it is supportive in these times where you're, in that more masculine energy, in that more productive mode. It can be supportive there. It's also has been really supportive for me when I'm needing to expand and think more, be more open and like more creative. Um,
yeah, yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
that's
So I find that I am more focused, but I also find that I'm in flow.
yeah, in
It's not like
flow
I'm
when you're focused.
like,
Yeah,
like this. It's more
yeah,
kind of like this through my day, which
yeah,
is more graceful and
absolutely.
fluid. And as far as antidepressants, that would be something that we'd work one-on-one. It just really
Mm,
depends on what you're on. I've worked with some people who have weaned off of their antidepressants using microdosing, of course, working with their medical
right.
professional. So there's many, many different, it's kind of a situation where I would rather talk with the person and meet with the person. And if you're just on, it depends, what other medications are you on?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
How high is the dose? How long have you
yeah.
been up? There's a lot of different factors there.
And so like you have an intake form and you go over it with
Yes.
the client. And
Yes.
so it's not like you just get the pills. It's like, okay, it's
No,
the whole
not at
process.
all.
So
Yeah.
for the
I'm
folks
not one to hand
asking,
out the pills.
okay, we got a couple more questions. Will microdosing change my personality? What if I don't like the new me?
That's a good question. Um, I don't think it will change your personality. What I find with most of my clients is that they just find that they have less stress in their life and they're actually able to connect with their essence on a deeper level because they aren't so frantic or overwhelmed.
Yeah.
They're able to really work with those emotions. They're able to hold their emotional capacity. And I don't know who wouldn't like that. So if
Yeah,
you
I feel
didn't
like
like yourself, I'd be shocked.
it helps you be more you. It doesn't change your personality. It
Yeah,
helps you like connect with yourself more.
it
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
It helps you connect with the deeper layers of
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Yeah, I
hmm
agree. Great question, though.
Yeah, another question was I want to try microdosing, but I'm nervous about the legal side. What do I need to know?
Well, it depends on where you are in the world.
Okay.
And
I didn't
we're in
say.
Colorado, where microdosing or psilocybin is decriminalized. So it's not legal, it's decriminalized, and there are certain rules around it. When I'm working with someone, I am providing harm reduction services. So any kind of medicine that is given is gifted. It has to be gifted to the individual. And then what people are paying me for is for the guidance, the coaching, and the harm reduction services.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Decriminalized. Are there other states where it's decriminalized also?
Yes, Oregon,
Right.
and I believe Michigan is there now. And I want to say Massachusetts is
Yeah,
going
I feel
that
like
way.
there's more than just Oregon and
Yeah,
Colorado, but I don't know
yeah.
to date
You,
list.
we are on the precipice of the psychedelic renaissance. This
Yeah.
is a real, I mean, as much as it's a chaotic time to be alive, it is
Cool.
really a gift to be alive
It
and
is.
have
It is.
access to these medicines.
It
And then
really
actually
is.
just having more studies and more work done around them, and people are starting to be more open.
Mhm. And
So,
rediscovering studies that were done a while ago.
yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
is pretty cool. And I think, you know, uh, I was thinking about what you said about like, it is a difficult time right now. We're in March of 2025, and with the new, administration taking away a lot of rights and jobs and other things. But um, what a radical act to still have joy in our lives and love and support each other through things like this. So, I do agree. It is, we're still in the middle of this renaissance and the story's still
Yeah,
unfolding. And from a scientific perspective, I'm
yeah.
very excited. I worked in my PhD was in my PI was a psychiatrist, and I worked studying uh vesicular monoamine transporter. What the heck's that? It's like what packages dopamine and serotonin into synaptic vesicles for release. So it's fun. It's so related to this work. So it's cool to see where it's headed. I've always dorked out on this kind of stuff. Um,
Which naturally drew you to microdosing.
yeah,
I mean,
naturally.
you found me on Facebook,
I
so
know.
you were curious, and that's what's happening is people are curious. People are
Yeah.
finding that Western medicine is really letting them down.
hmm
They've been on antidepressants, anti-anxiety. They're not really connecting with themselves. They're not receiving the benefit that they may have in the first couple of months. They are struggling getting off of it. They need to learn to reconnect with the deeper parts of
Yep.
themselves. They're numbed out from some of these medicines. And that's what I love about psychedelics is they really give us an opportunity to reconnect with our authentic self and
Yeah.
rediscover who we are and grow. So
So if folks want to start working with you, tell us about what you have coming up this year and or in the near and longer term and how folks can get in touch with you and work with you.
yeah, thank you. Well, I have Root It coming up, which is the 6-week microdosing experience. We
Nice.
do it all online.
When is it
We
starting?
That's starting in July,
Okay.
and you can go to the Soulful Medicine Woman /Root It, and you'll find all the information there. Um, and I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling this year for
Mm,
medicine work, so that'll be a lot of fun. And I offer one-on-one work, macro doses, and microdosing. So it's really a matter of contacting me. We can do an introduction call. we can kind of connect to see if we're both aligned, if it feels good for you. And we can start working together that way. So a lot of my work is on Zoom. I work with people all over the country. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm like, you and I need to get a retreat on the books together where we bring people
Yeah.
in. So,
Yeah. I actually do have a retreat coming up. It's going to
oh,
be
you
this
do?
one's going to be a yeah, it's going to be a men's retreat, and it's
Oh,
June 28th and June 29th.
all
It's going to
right.
be at Estes Park. I've got more coming out. So that's all for the men because I
Yeah,
really
so the
think
guys can go hang out with you in Estes Park, and the ladies, they can
yes.
send their ladies to me, and I'm doing
That's
a
it, because
yoga
you have one going that same
weekend.
weekend.
I have yoga summer camp up in
Yes.
outside Netherlands. So
Perfect.
perfect.
I love it. Yes, but
So
just
we
the
kind of are
soulful.
doing one together, but not.
Yes, we are.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so you could just find me at the soulfulmedicinewoman.com. Or you can always just email me direct, Karma at the soulfulmedicinewoman.com. Yep.
awesome. Thank you so much, Karma.
Thank
Is there
you.
anything
CR, this
else
was so
you want
fun.
to add before we log off? I feel like we covered it.
I would just like to say that healing is possible. It is
Mhm.
possible. And just to be patient with yourself because we are layers. We are complex. We're like complex plants. We
Like
have
an onion.
layers. We're an onion and we have lots of layers. So give yourself and those around you so much grace, especially in these hard times. We need to really um, exude kindness and patience and love right now in the world. So
Radical joy, defiant joy.
yes, yes, resist and be joyful.
Ah, I love it. Okay, I'm gonna log
Uh,
off of my Instagram
that
live,
was so fun.
stop our
And
recording.
Satsunder, thank you.